And if you're stuck in a trap of, well, we've been feeding them that way, what do we do? Do like you do with adults that struggle with this sometimes too. You slowly transition. All right, welcome to the Bacon Bibles and Barbells podcast. I'm Coach Justin, and today I'm joined by Coach Emily and Amanda. Bill is still absent. We don't know where he is, but he's not here. No, he's got a lot going on this month, so he won't be joining us probably for the next one or two, maybe more. I don't know. But he's still helping his clients. He's just not here with us for podcasting. So today we wanted to talk about a pretty cool topic that I think a lot of families are struggling to address. And I think you actually have got a couple questions to the page on this topic, right? Like how to talk to your children about health and fitness and things like that. I think a lot of this comes down to framing and perspective. And part of it is most of us weren't raised in an environment that championed that for us. And so those of us that converted to taking this stuff seriously as adults, we don't know what that looks like. Because I'm sure there are families that have done it, but like no one in my generation was. I mean, if people worked out and it was like, yeah, that's cool that you're doing that, but there wasn't like a real narrative, even in the churches I went to or anything like that, around like how important this is, other than like, hey, try not to eat too much food, that's probably not good. But mostly it was Baptists actually making fun of how much they like to eat at potlucks and almost joking about what I actually consider to be a fairly serious topic. So I've titled this Raising Healthy Adults, because the goal is not to raise healthy kids. The goal is to raise healthy adults, because we're not, just like the other things we do as parents, we're not trying to just correct behavior and be like, hey, don't do that. Okay, now you're not doing it, so my job's done. There's a lot more to it that you do. Obviously, we do that, but there is also the how do you teach, how do you instruct, so that these things that we are having them do now continue on in their lives, so that they can embrace these as their own values and see that, yes, this is good and beneficial and righteous and should be pursued. And hopefully, even as far as the fitness and health topic, give them a taste for it, if you will. So some of the top principles that, if you guys could summarize like what you would want your kids to walk away with, as far as like they're 18, if they're out on their own, what would you want them to look back and frame in their mind as far as like the overall principles of health and fitness? Like what should be guiding them?
I think understanding food as fuel is something that a lot of adults don't understand, and it can be trained up in children. So it's not a concept of over restriction or just a free for all, but we don't just eat for what tastes good or what we want at the time, but we're actually fueling our activity and our behaviors with what we put into our bodies. And I think that can be very often missed in how we talk about food, or even just not at all talking about food with our kids. Understanding that it is fuel, I think, is something that I work with almost every adult that I've done nutrition coaching for. I've tried to get that concept through. So it's definitely something that, if it's more ingrained at an early age, may not need to go through that retraining as an adult.
Yeah, for sure. I think that, like you said, some people don't even like talk about what they eat or talk about food, period. Like it's just something you do. And I think that a couple of the like things you want to give them as they're growing is, like when they're little kids, they can't phrase it this way, but what it really is a theology of food, a theology of the body, like a sort of like liturgy of life, that this is like what we actually do. And this is how responsible human beings should act. And this is what honors God. And this is actually what God thinks about food, and how God thinks about how he made you, and how this is how God actually made the world to work. And so if you can, like, again, especially when the kids are little, you can't really, until they start to get older, like call it that. But all of those things you do when they're little put the building blocks in place so that you can put words to it as they get older, and then you don't have to undo some of those mindset shifts and that sort of thing. Like, that's how I grew up, is like no one talked about this stuff. No one talked about like, what does God actually think of what we eat?
Yeah.
Like, that would not have entered the conversation at any point in my life. And that's something that I think is good to start with, just how we think about it. And just as you talk about it, having those conversations puts all those perspectives in place.
Yeah, I think it overall becomes a good opportunity to yet another opportunity to teach delayed gratification too, because that's what like
For sure.
all the like most of parenting is teaching the various applications of delaying gratification. That's because it's like it's not like the desire goes away as adults, but like children think in the now exclusively, basically. And one thing I like with the food topic, like Amanda mentioned, food is fuel, and some of the things you mentioned, Emily, is I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but one thing that like as woo-woo as it may sound, that actually changed my perspective a lot, at least as I say, it was the beginning of the change in perspective around food for me, was the way that someone claimed online, I don't know if this is true or not, that the way that Chinese culturally thinks about food. Americans eat food based on how they feel while they're eating it, and that the Chinese eat food based on how they want to feel after they eat it. And that's actually a really good summary, I think, for what you can say to kids, basically.
Yeah.
Like, how is this going to make you feel later? And I think implicitly that's like, over the handful of hours after you eat, of course, but that can extend to years, obviously. Like, if you're eating this and you keep doing this kind of thing, how are you going to be feeling? How capable will you be if you keep eating this way? Whether that's positive or negative. And
I think with really little kids, they're a little more resilient to where they can eat a little bit of junk food and it doesn't necessarily affect how they feel later like it does in an adult. But maybe there's things that us as parents notice, like, oh, they seem sluggish, or they're seeming like they're hyperactive or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, they've done studies too where I can't remember what the one study was. They made only a minor change to a bunch of like ADHD diagnosed kids for like, was it 30 days? And
it was just 30 days.
What did they do? I think
they took out just processed foods.
It might have just been sugar.
Or sugar.
I think it was only like white sugar. It was just pure sugar sources. And like over half of them weren't ADHD anymore.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then if you give them sleep, then because they did another sleep study where they gave kids had to get at least like 7 hours of sleep a night or something, which is still not enough, but more than most kids I think are getting. Yeah, it is. But more than a lot of kids are getting that have like TVs and devices in their rooms, which is a lot of kids anymore. And like same thing, like most of them weren't ADHD anymore. So I think, I don't know. I think that it does. I mean, especially if you're like homeschooler or something like that, you get more in tune with the behaviors of your kids. And I think that a lot of this is masked by people being, parents who might not be able to see how their kids are after lunch as much, or certain other things, or maybe aren't as mindful of it, because I think we're not as mindful ourselves.
Yeah.
I think like I can tell with our kids if they've been eating poorly. Like, not that it happens real often, but if we're on vacation, we're like, hey, just do what we want. Not that they're eating junk, but it's like we might eat out a bunch and stuff. They get sluggish. They get their attitudes are not as good. And I think part of it too is if your kid is used to eating poorly because you're eating poorly, you don't know what it's like when they've been eating well for a year at a time, or for the most part, like in general, they've eaten a healthy diet. So like you wouldn't necessarily know anything other than that baseline of like, well, yeah, that's just the way they behave because they're a kid. It's like, well, they might behave that way, at least in part, due to like what they're being fed. So as we kind of, so now let's move into like different age categories and stuff, right? Because the messaging we have is different at different times. So at, that like 0 to 5 age, like what are some of the key things that you like, messages that you want to give them, things that you want to reinforce, and things that you want them to sort of be like taking away as foundational elements for how they think about mostly, I think we're mostly talking about food here, but also activity in general and fitness and things like that. Obviously, they're probably not powerlifting yet, but there's stuff they could do.
Yeah, at that age, they're really not thinking about what their body looks like as much. And so the focus can be on, like, even when a kid gets a new pair of shoes, the common question is, let me see how fast you can run in those. Like, they want to be fast, they want to be strong. So showing them how their bodies are capable of doing those things and getting stronger, getting faster, being able to do more things is like making it more activity focused at that age is really good. And then of course the food goes along with that. Like you can run so much faster when you ate all your chicken for lunch or something, you know? Trying to make it exciting, I think, for that age. Not something that's dull and boring, but still being able to teach the same principles of increasing your capability by being active, by eating well, and really it's huge on the parents' part to set the example and also not be having the ultra processed foods all the time. Being able to show proper portion sizes and things like that, which is also interesting for this age because they can and should probably eat more fats than an adult, proportionally. And getting protein is still good. They can have a bunch of carbs. That's totally fine for a kid, but it's just trying to limit the ultra processed things, leading by an example as the parent, and encouraging the things that that the children are able to do more of and do better because they're fueled appropriately and active.
Yeah, for sure. I think something that some parents miss, and hopefully I'm okay saying this with this podcast audience, but like you're the boss, of your kids at this age, very much so. And like 0 to 5, they're literally learning how the world works. And they're learning like what's good for them and what's not good for them and what they can get away with and what they can't. And so sometimes you hear parents say, I've had this said to me, I don't know how many times, because people will ask us what our kids eat or what are things, what activities we do, things like that. And they're like, oh, my kid just would never eat that sort of thing. So you have the opportunity when they
will if that's all you put in front of them.
There's that. But you have the opportunity when they're really little to tell them what's good for them and even be able to win those battles. Like it's perfectly normal for a 3-year-old to push back when they want more ice cream and you've said no, like it's okay to put some effort into winning those battles and explain along the way, like, nope, this is not, you have had enough ice cream for your body. You do not need more, and
or any necessarily,
just, it depends on context and stuff like that. But like you have the opportunity to teach by telling them, yes, this is good. No, this is not good. And holding those lines. And at the same time, making it super encouraging. Like Amanda was talking about, just like, these foods are so good for you. You are going to be so big and strong. I love using the big and strong because like you tell them they're going to be big and strong and they get these big smiles because they're like, I'm going to be big and strong. It's going to be so fun. I'm going to be like mom and dad,
Well, what's exciting to a kid, I think too, is they love that they're growing.
Yes.
Like their like a kid's favorite thing is like outgrowing their shirts and pants and shoes and everything else. Cause it's like, I'm getting bigger.
Yep.
And anything along the lines, I think of like, you're going to continue meeting your goals of getting bigger and growing up properly is like physically developing is a good thing. And so like reinforcing like, yeah, that helps you, whatever the food may be. I want to touch on the, what you said about some parents are like, oh, my kids would never eat that. That's like total nonsense. Like if that is a thought that you're having, I get it. There's sometimes some things, some kids are like, you're never going to get them to eat it maybe, but that should be like a couple food items, not like anything. Like not like my kid won't eat meat. Well, guess what? 500 years ago, there wasn't macaroni and cheese and there wasn't pizza. Well, there might've been if you were in Italy, but it wasn't like you can buy in the freezer section today. And
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't a thing. That wasn't a limitation. Guess what? Kids still grew up. They still ate the food. They still did everything. This comes down to how you've been feeding them and what their expectations are. And if you're stuck in a trap of, well, we've been feeding them that way, what do we do? Do like you do with adults that struggle with this sometimes too. You slowly transition. And for us, it was like, if you don't eat the food, then you didn't eat dinner.
Yeah.
Like you can not eat this if you want, but we're going to put it in the fridge and you're going to eat it for breakfast in the morning, and we're just going to pull it out of the fridge and you're going to eat it cold. That's how we've always done everything. And guess what? Our kids eat everything. All the normal
Mm-hmm.
like adult food, and by the way, our kids have like ridiculously developed taste for their age because of that, because like they have a taste for these types of wholesome foods, and Emily's a really good cook. So like when we go to restaurants, which is rare, they're not very easily impressed. Like they
Mm-hmm.
they just don't care about, whatever. Like they're used to certain kinds of foods. So their expectations about foods are whatever you set in their household.
Yeah.
Um,
This is definitely when picky eaters begin to develop a lot. And
yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, we've also had the, what's for dinner? Well, take it or leave it. You have two options. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
we've always used that as well. But that's not to say that there's not any kind of forgiveness or tweaking or trying to find out what works best for your family. It's not just I'm cooking what I want and that's what you get.
Yeah.
Right.
If your kids like a certain meat more than others, you'll probably cook that more often. If there's a
Oh,
certain
yeah.
vegetable they like, you'll probably make that more often. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe tweaking the seasonings and the sauces that you use to make it more palatable.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like there's zero forgiveness or leeway given at all
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
what we're cooking. It's just, we want our kids to eat real food. And
Right.
so we're putting real food on their plate and expecting them to eat it. I mean, let's face it, Cheez-It tastes the same every single time, but some blueberries
Right.
are soft, some are squishy,
Yeah.
some are hard, some are tart, some are sweet. Like there's these
Yeah.
differences that you kind of have to get used to when you're eating real food. But if you grow up that way, that's just part of normal life. And there's going to be
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
variations between kids. Like my oldest kid, like he loved fruit of any kind. He would eat a tomato like an apple. He
I
had a
can't do
hard
that.
time with the texture of meats though. So we would be very careful with how we would cook certain meats. Second
Mm-hmm.
child, on the other hand, will literally drink milk as much as you can give him, hates juice, not really a fruit kid except for maybe bananas, but he loves vegetables. He loves meat.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're still working with whole foods, still encouraging the things that they may not like as much to be healthy and have a variety and balanced diet. But yeah, I mean, we still cook more of what they like. So as
Yeah.
long as
Mm-hmm.
it's still whole foods, it's not just, oh, you're being picky today. Here's a pizza.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what you don't want to do. Yeah. I mean, it's this
Part of that
totally.
too is you're rewarding them for complaining about food. You're like rewarding pickiness. Like, well, if you complain, I'll give you something better.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's not what you want to reinforce.
Yeah, and you don't want to form those emotional attachments with the food either at those ages.
Yeah.
Like I've known kids who would throw tantrums or manipulate for certain snacks or things like that. And you definitely don't want to, like, food should not be something that is ever used to soothe at that age, because those patterns run deep. I mean, they truly, truly do.
Yeah, that's one thing too that I would emphasize that I've seen a lot of parents do is throwing processed food at their kids to manipulate their behavior
Yeah.
in like, when they're out, social situations, things like that, to sort of like, that's not helping them deal with life. And basically it is training them to seek food for comfort when there is stress. At a very fundamental level, you're rewiring their brain to seek food as an exit from their situation, as a coping mechanism.
And we're not talking about like nursing infants, but like
Well,
toddlers.
yeah.
A little older.
Well, there's only one choice when they're nursing, so
Yeah.
it's definitely not. It's not processed. But
I
like
think
just
that
the
there is a development of certain food tastes that they get based on what the mother eats when they're breastfeeding
I've read
them
that
too.
too.
So
Yeah. What I mean, and obviously the quality of the breast milk, and if you even produce enough, is also manipulated by diet. A lot of women that underproduce, that we've seen and that we've helped, and people that have messaged the page sometimes our blanket is usually like, well, first have more protein and drink more water. And most of the time that fixes it. When they're having trouble with production, it's like, do that, boom, problem solved. They're like, oh yeah, I did that. Like, and it's like the next day. It's not like this takes a while. It's like your body's like, oh, I've got what I need. Fine, we'll take care of this now.
Right.
That is the common thread that I think we've seen over and over. And in the 0 to 5 age range, as far as macros, I think similar to what Amanda said, children are extremely protein efficient, far more than adults, and they don't need a ton of protein. So we don't necessarily, not that it's bad, we don't necessarily have to get them to that like gram per pound of body weight intake daily. I would say you could probably cut that in half in the 0 to 5 range. And then my emphasis would actually mostly be carbs, like carbs and starches. Some fats are fine. I just say like whatever fats you're getting from whatever is fine. I wouldn't seek out fats, but like if they're in dairy because they like milk, fine. But I would actually be emphasizing carbs as much as possible because that's what's going to help drive growth factors. That's what drives growth hormone and insulin and all the things that kids need. And then as far as like activities, one thing that I've said to our kids numerous times is like try to reinforce activities is when they talk about how they sleep really well after they've been like playing hard all day. Like, oh, I slept so, hard last night. And I'll be like, yeah, that's because you played so much. It's really good for you, huh? You slept well. And they're like, oh yeah. Like when you have those moments to reinforce like, yeah, you did this and this is what happened. And that's great. That helps them form those associations of, oh, I did this, that there was a good consequence. Like it's just a way to teach. And I think, help them frame physical activity as good.
Yeah, and the more positive you are as you talk about all these things, especially with those ages at 0 to 5, like they're just excited to be here, And so as those things come up, I think starting the conversation when they're really little is really helpful, and being super joyful and positive and encouraging and fun when you talk about those things, it starts the conversation with them, but it also makes it not weird when you go to talk to them about body image when they're 12 or something, because you've been talking about the cool things that their body can do since they were 2, so doing that in a positive way when they're really young can lay a little groundwork for later.
Yeah, that age group totally is also when a lot of mothers are still dealing with not really liking their postpartum body, that 0 to 5, when your kids are like that 0 to 5 age range. So I feel like saying positive things to your kids can also be speaking to yourself in a way to help yourself make better choices and feel better about what your body was able to do.
Right. And just like real quick on that note, I do not hide. Well, I haven't, and Justin hasn't. Like when we go to lose weight, like we don't hide that from our kids. I know some parents are like, "Oh no, it's just fine. I'm just like eating a salad right now. It's all." We're just like, I just teach, especially my daughter, like life is cyclical like that sometimes. And sometimes you need to lose a little weight, either to look good or to be a little healthier or to, just like for whatever reason, maybe you just want to be able to run a little better or something like that. And like, it doesn't have to be this like super red flag. Like I never want my kids to think about losing weight or anything like that. Like we just try and be super normal about it. Like Dad's losing weight right now because he gained 30 pounds to do strongman really well last summer. And now he doesn't want to be quite so big, it's just like, and this is how we do it. We're not, I know that a lot of moms that I've talked to kind of hide that aspect. And we just kind of treat it like this is normal life. Sometimes you just want to lose a few pounds.
Yeah, and it helps remove the mental blocks that they may feel as adults too. Make it not weird. Like, which kind of goes to like another point too. They see you and the things you do and the way you talk about your diet, and food and activities and things like that. They see that you're pursuing those things. Your example is still like probably number one of all the things we're going to talk about, messaging and stuff like that. Your example, they'll take more away from that than probably anything you say. And that's true of like pretty much everything as a parent. And I think very much so in this whole topic. And this is true at all ages, not just the 0 to 5, but like that applies, I think, to every age. When they see how you conduct yourself, how you talk about like, Are you saying like, I got to go to the gym? Like, how are you framing these things? If they see that you're struggling with going to the gym, you're struggling with eating the right things, but you're framing it properly, as this is, good necessary work I have to do or whatever it might be. That's good. Like they should see that and see the realities of that. And there's no need to, like Emily said, like hide anything or kind of be weird about it. It's like, yeah, mommy wants to lose some weight because I'll be healthier, because I want to look better. Whatever the reason might be that has you in that phase, or I'm gaining weight because I want to get stronger. Cool. Like if they're asking, then just tell them, because it should be normalized to them that we go through, like Emily said, these cyclical patterns.
Yeah.
And like if you make it weird, they'll take that into adulthood. Just, talk to them.
Yeah.
So
I would also say, like, get them the active toys, like get them the bikes or the trampoline or the scooter or the skates, and actually help them learn how to use it. Don't just buy them and let them collect dust, but encourage the movement with fun things that they can do as well.
Yeah. Emphasizing play is, I think, like encourage that, especially outdoors and things like that. We even the winter here, like Emily makes sure the kids are out at least for an hour a day, pretty much no matter what the weather is. It's like, you guys got to get out, whatever it is. Of course, in the summer, it's like, it's like impossible to keep them inside sometimes, which is fine. But like, even in the winter when the weather's kind of crappy, sometimes they're kind of like, okay, and then they go out, that they end up having a nice time. They can make, make it work. But like trying to get them outside and moving and encouraging them to play and to be kids outside, I think is a big part of this too. And it's obviously healthy for many reasons. So age 6 to 12, that's kind of the next like area that we could discuss. Some things can start changing at this point. Even like their mental capability to handle certain things, the way they're thinking about certain things as well. What kind of messaging how should the messaging change in that like age category? And this, I think, is where it begins to change for boys and girls a little bit too. Not drastically so, but I think there could be certain changes. And honestly, if we were in what I'd say like a fully Christian society, it actually probably wouldn't change that much. But because of the things we know our children will encounter out in the world and just in media, social media, etc., there are ways that we have to prepare boys and girls, I think, a little bit uniquely, only because probably of those potential and future upcoming influences they're going to encounter.
Yeah, for this age, they are much more likely, especially, toward the end of this age range, going to be getting their own food. They're not always waiting for you to prepare and give them whatever they're going to be eating. So having conversations about why you've chosen the certain foods that you have on hand, and that can help them with making the decision of what they want to grab out of the pantry or the fridge and put on their plate. I'd also encourage, like, you don't have to eat until you're stuffed or full at this age. Like, it's okay if you start to feel full, you can be done. For us, for example, we're not a clean your plate family. We typically do, but it's not, a have to. If you start to get full, as long as you've had some healthy amount of those things, it's not like eat one piece of your broccoli and now you're done. But it's not a clean your plate mentality either. And I think this is a good age to introduce, if you have it available in your area, and have the means to do so, is putting them in a sport. I think that they get a lot from that. They get the activity. They also learn how to be coachable. And that's a really important skill to have going into adulthood. There's tons of different sports to pick from. And I know a lot of kids will start on something and they'll be excited for a little bit and then they'll want to drop out. So what we've always done is, like, you have to have a 6-month commitment. You can stop if you're still hating it at the end of 6 months. That's fine. But at least do something, some kind of a sport for a little while, just to get that structure, being able to work with the team and work with other people, especially if they're homeschooled. Like, working with another adult who's not your parent is can be helpful, and having that peer involvement for kind of pushing you to be better in a group environment, I think is a really good thing to introduce around this age, and just keep them active at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. 3 of our kids are in this stage right now. So it's kind of funny. 3 out of our 4. And so I think what that looks like for us, like when they get out of those little years, is like they're so much more aware. They're aware of what you're eating. They're aware of the activities we're doing. They're aware of other people and the choices other people make. And they're aware of more of like sometimes how they feel, their preferences a lot more, things they like, and the way different foods make them feel. So you can definitely teach things like Amanda was saying with those fullness cues, and they start getting a little more like food freedom, those sorts of things. And so those are good. Like, and just keeping those conversations going, I think goes a really long way with these ages, because as they become more aware, they also become very curious. Like, why do we eat the way we do? Why do you do that? Why does this person look like that and this other person looks like this? Or why did they say that? It's like a good, big question asking age. And so being ready to answer those questions and keep those conversations going, I think goes a really long way in this age. And so one of the principles I think is good to keep in mind is that like everything in moderation, or like time and place for everything sort of thing. You don't want to be the mom who is like, did you see what Jimmy was eating for lunch? His mother sent him a ding dong, blah, 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 blah. Or you don't want to also be like the mom who's just like, oh, the chips you want at the party, who cares? There's just, you want to be the type of mom who's like, look, there's a time and place for everything. Like none of these things are necessarily bad. Resting on the Sabbath is not bad. Resting all week is, then you're a sluggard. Eating cupcakes every night is bad. Is it at the birthday party? Absolutely not. Like go enjoy that sort of thing. Like, so like not being so black and white, I think in this age goes a long way. And even giving them that sort of concept of like, you have freedom within these bounds, like you have these sorts of snacks to choose from, but you can choose any one you want. You have these sorts of foods that we're going to make for dinner, but you can, have experiment with the portion sizes a little bit and that sort of thing. And so like, I think helping that curiosity by giving them some choice, but also trying to explain the situations in their context and giving them that, time and place for everything. What we need, what is most important is to like be wise about what situation we're in right now and read the story that God has placed you in this moment and what's the wisest decision for you. And with some of our kids, it's been funny because with some of them, we'll have to be like, no, that's fine. You can have the cupcake. And other ones we have to be like, that's enough cupcakes. Like, I see where you swing here, personality-wise.
I think it's beneficial also at this age range, 6 to 12, to kind of help them be more involved when you are grocery shopping. Like teach them how to pick out which avocado is the right kind, and maybe some nutrition facts on the back of food labels, and have them look at 2 different products and tell you which one might be better. Picking out which meats that your family is bringing home, some basic, actually making the choices of what's going to be available in the house. And maybe they want something that's considered a little bit of an indulgence on a snack. Give a couple options and have them choose which one will make them feel better after they've eaten it.
Definitely. And as they develop those preferences, it's like you were talking about earlier, Amanda, like it does bless your family to make good food. So it's like, don't just give them a plain sweet potato and a piece of chicken breast and expect the whole family to rejoice. Because I wouldn't be either.
Part of it is like cooking well too for them, but also I think along the lines of what Amanda was saying, like helping them know how to pick good foods in the grocery store. Start teaching them how to cook. That's the age when they can start doing, like you said, they're not necessarily waiting on you for every meal, because they can do a lot of their own. Encourage that. Show them how to cook, whatever foods. And don't, that doesn't mean like, this is how you microwave the frozen lasagna. Like you
Oh.
don't really need to teach that, but like show
Like
them
how
how
to
to make
brown meat
eggs.
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Yep.
this is how you make eggs. This is how you make a fried egg. This is how you make a scrambled egg. This is how you make toast. This is how you cut an apple or peel an orange. Like all those skills
Mhm.
for how to handle healthy foods, I think are important. Like that will help normalize cooking for them. And that also means that, because one of the bigger barriers that I think adults have when they start eating healthy is a lot of people don't know how to cook. Like
Mhm.
they don't know how to cook meat. They don't know how to cook vegetables and how to integrate these things into wholesome meals, because they're used to like either restaurants or meals that are basically prepared for them, whether that's freezer meals or canned stuff or whatever. And having it be totally normal for your kids at a young age to be able to prepare basic meals is good. Like they should know how to make a sandwich. They should know
Yeah.
how to make eggs, maybe in certain meats and things like that. Um, and normalize, like, oh, if I want a snack, I go get an apple or I go get some grapes or something like that, not chips, not something along those lines. That
Yeah.
will go a long way to know how to help themselves and take care of themselves, because that's the foundational programming for what they do when they're hungry. And it should be not like, oh yeah, I'll just go in the freezer and reach for this thing, or go in the pantry and get chips or whatever the snack might be.
Mhm.
And part of it too is not keeping a bunch of that stuff around, because as adults we don't really need it, and kids don't either.
Right. One like quick word of caution in this age in particular, and because we get this question every once in a while, and people are kind of hesitant to ask it, but they also don't know who else to ask sometimes, where they're like, in this age range in particular, some parents see their kids getting a little bigger than would be ideal, and they kind of don't know what to do, because they're like, I don't want to like put them on a diet, like they're 8, but they're also getting a little more large than I would like them to be, and I don't want to set them up for that, going into teenage years, but I also don't want to scare them about body image, things like that. And so one thing, I mean, I guess like two big things is like that 6 to 12, sometimes parents start giving their kids screens and they start getting a lot less active because of video games, tablets, things like that. And so we don't, our family doesn't do tablets or any sort of mobile
No.
gameplay. They get an hour on Saturdays to play video games. But
Yeah.
it's up to you as a parent what you're going to do. But if your kids start to become significantly less active, that will play a role. And the other thing I just wanted to mention real quick is portion sizes. I've seen a lot of parents that do the clean your plate rule. Like I'll watch the amount that they are still serving for their children sometimes, and I'll be like, that's as much as I'm going to eat. Like, so sometimes parents need to back off a little bit if you're still serving your kids during these ages, and not be like, oh, and you got to finish it all, because their stomachs will adjust to that. Like they'll be able to eat it,
Yeah.
but it may be too much for them. And
You might be training them to overeat.
You may be, yeah, and not on purpose, but you may be just giving them too much food and expecting them to eat it all too many times. So those are just my thoughts on that. Like initially, those would be two areas that I would look at if that's you as a
And one thing I'd encourage parents in that position too is not to clean your kids' plates as well. That was for them. Maybe you overserved. Like, okay, then next time don't overserve, but toss that food. Because if it's no real value to you, because you shouldn't be eating it, if it's not the calories you need, then it's like there. Food feels like it's scarce because it was scarce for humans most of the time for the last several thousand years. It's not anymore if you're in America. So
unless you're in a bulk or a strong man, you can finish your kid's plate in that instance.
Yeah, that's true. But that's an exception. People. And that's most people listening to this, they don't need to go scrounge around for extra calories. And so like one thing, especially with moms that I've like talked to and stuff, is like, don't finish your kids' portions. I find a lot of mothers doing that. Some fathers too. It's like the normal, like, oh, well, just give it to dad, and it's like, no, throw it away. And like, just learn what the kids' portion sizes should be. If you overserved a little bit, that's okay. My tendency, and what I've told Emily that I think that she does basically based on, especially because we had 3 boys, they eat a bit more. Little girls eat like nothing sometimes.
So weird.
like very, very tiny
Yeah.
amounts. Yeah, like very tiny amounts.
Like how the boys are like, how are you still alive?
Well, because it's very small amounts sometimes that little girls need. And so that was an adjustment for Emily in portions. And at one point when she just kept having a leftover like every meal, it felt like especially dinner, I was just like, start feeding her half of what you're feeding her. If she's still hungry, she'll ask for more. It's okay to go back for seconds if you still need more food.
Yeah.
But part of it too is we don't want them to look at a portion and feel like they have to rise to the occasion.
That's true.
Yeah.
Because that is the tendency. And I think if you have a kid that's struggling with getting bigger, like they're putting on some extra weight, and this is an age where that can start to happen, a lot of it would be like, one, examine the screen time and their activity level, but two, also like what kinds of meals are they eating, especially out of normal meal times, and are you having dessert every night after dinner? What do their snacks consist of? And it's okay to talk to them about these things and be like, hey, you just have to do it properly. And it shouldn't be, I think that the tendency of a lot of parents is to kind of like gripe at their kids, like, oh, you're eating that, you're going to get bigger, like all that kind of stuff. And there can also be the overcorrection to that where like it's this forbidden thing that you won't address with your children because it feels awkward or whatever else. Just be upfront with them. Like tell them, hey, it looks like you're putting on some weight. We don't want that. It's not because I want you to look a certain way. It's because this is better for your health. You'll be a more capable person as you grow and develop. And so this is what we're going to do about it.
Yeah.
And whatever that might look like that you need to adjust, more activity level, this or that. Try not to frame it in terms of like a punishment, like some punishment thing where it's like, well, you've done horribly, so now you're not going to be able to eat this anymore. Or I'm going to take your screens away. But like, hey, looks like this isn't good for you. So we're going to limit the screen time.
Yeah. I would just take responsibility for it as the parent. Be like, hey, I should not have been letting you make some of these choices.
Yeah.
That's my fault. And but I'm sorry.
Yeah. It should be like a coming alongside and like, this is how we're going to adjust for this because it's really important that we fix this and figure the structure out for them and tell them, what it's going to be, whatever that might be, whether it's increased activity level, reduction of certain kinds of foods. And like, hey, if you're hungry, you need to get an apple or something. Don't grab the chips. And I'm going to keep less chips around anyway because I realize that's not good for us. Whatever it might be.
You probably already know by this age what the growth spurt tendencies are for your kids because there are a lot of kids who they'll get fatter and then they'll grow up.
They go out and then
they'll
up
kind of
and out,
like
and
out and then up and out and up.
Yeah.
But if you just see it like continue to go out and they're not getting any taller, then then it's something to address. If they're starting to get a little tubby, but historically that has meant they're about to grow 2 inches,
right.
You can probably wait it out a little bit and just keep watching. But there's also, speaking of the difference between boys and girls, they start growing, having that puberty age type growth spurt sometimes within this age range. Girls before boys are usually later and they usually grow for a longer period of time. So those kinds of growth spurts are probably going to stop at some point soon for the girls anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Me, for example, I have not grown a single inch since I was 13 years old. That was it.
Same.
It's just that's where it stops.
That's what every woman who's 5'2" says.
I thought there was more coming.
Yeah.
Nope, you're done. I didn't stop growing until I was like 19, basically. And I think that's a lot of guys. They don't really stop growing until they're 18, 19, sometimes 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is true. Like we're not talking about if they put on like an extra couple of pounds. Like your kids don't need to have visible abs.
No.
Right.
But I will say, in my opinion, a lot more teenage boys probably should because that means they're at a body composition that's good, and that means they're so stinking active. And I will say this too, like it is hard for a kid to have to be eating in a way because of their environment that makes them gain weight if they are required to be active, encouraged to be active, and if there are only whole foods around.
Yeah, tough.
It's hard for them to gain excessive weight. And so usually the adjustments that need to be made are very minor in nature.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't freak out about it if you're that a parent in that situation because like Justin just said, it really doesn't usually take much to just get them back on track.
Yeah. My name is Justin Johnson with High Calling Fitness. Maybe you're tired, gaining weight, waking up with joint pain, back pain, and a body that just doesn't feel like it used to. You've tried to fix it, but nothing seems to last. What if you don't need another app or crash diet, but a real coach, someone to meet you where you're at and walk with you step by step? At High Calling Fitness, our coaching comes to you wherever you are. No matter where you live, small town or city, across the country or across the world, your health still matters. You don't have to go it alone. We build personalized plans based on your goals, your schedule, and your equipment, even if it's just a set of dumbbells in a small space. This isn't just training, it's a personal partnership. You'll get weekly updates, one-on-one access to your coach, and ongoing support through Zoom and Slack every step of the way. We're here to help you build strength, restore energy, and claim the life you were meant to live. Book a free consult today. Let's talk about your goals and see how we can build something better together. High Calling Fitness, built for the everyday, ready for the extraordinary. Yeah. So age 13 plus, obviously the caloric requirements, especially for boys, this is when they start really going up. And I think there's a temptation, especially for people raising boys, to be like, well, this is where you get your calories from, partly because it's cheaper, like to go to like processed foods, and like, well, just like snacking actually starts becoming encouraged on chips and other calorie dense foods or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a little more expensive, but you are building a foundation for your children, and it's can you really put a price on that? And this is also a time where, kind of along the lines of what you were just saying, Amanda, sports and like various activities and stuff like that should be very much encouraged. And it's also an age where like 6 to 12, I think it's actually good if you can get them to like kind of lift weights and it be fun. 13 plus is where they can start taking it seriously, and there can start being like real structure in place too. And you have little adults at this point. And so like all of the things that we do as adults, they can kind of start doing themselves.
Yeah, this is also the age where many gyms allow a membership to begin. So if you already have a membership for your gym for yourself, add your kid onto it, have them go with you. And if you have a home gym, even, more easy, just bring them in. You probably already have been if you have a home gym, but actually giving them maybe a simple program to follow would be a good idea at this point. So it gives them a little bit of structure, and they're able to train with you a little bit more closely.
Yeah.
Ashton's just walking around in the background.
Yeah.
Kind of bringing them into your world a little more. So as they're getting closer to adulthood, and they are these little adults now, then they can, as much as you want, be doing these things alongside with you. Should probably be able to cook maybe a full meal for the family every once in a while. So not just something for themselves, but also preparing a dinner for the family, and being able to know what's coming whenever they have a family of their own every once in a while.
Yeah, for sure. When we've started with the boys, we only have boys that are like formally training right now, but we usually ask them, because like you don't want to be teenagers, especially teenage boys, like it's like you got to boss them around a little bit, but if you can more encourage them to come along, usually what you're trying to enforce goes a lot farther, right? Especially if you're mom. And so we've like encouraged the boys when they get in the gym, like, what are 3 movements you want to work on? Like let them choose and have that freedom to be like, oh, well, farmer carries look really cool, or I would really like to have a really big deadlift like dad, or, something like that. And so then you give them those choices and then help like work on a program with them, and so movements and how many days a week and that sort of thing, and then they get to watch their own progress while they're doing something they enjoy, and you're not being such a micromanager about their training and things like that. And it can be a temptation sometimes for those of us who are really into nutrition or really into training or that sort of things to nitpick our kids for their preferences. And I would really try and stay away from that, especially with your teenagers. Like, you're just trying to encourage a love for them, and they are not you. Like, don't try and live your vicarious like bodybuilding dreams through your teenage son or your powerlifting dreams or whatever. Like, they're their own people.
Or with any of the sports they're doing.
Yeah, or that's very, very true.
Or other activities.
Yeah, because you are going to shoot the love for movement right out of their little souls.
Yeah, don't try to avoid the pitfall of making them do all the things you wished you had done or wish you could do, but you didn't, kind of thing. Or maybe you did. Obviously, that's not just, that's in terms of like the specifics. In generalities, yes. Like, if you didn't move, you weren't active as a kid, and you should encourage them to. But if they love whatever, like whatever the thing might be, encourage that if it's at all practical to do it. Like, our kids do very different. We all train together in our home gym, and they do different things. They're not like all doing the same thing. There's some degree of structure, but it's not super rigid. They know what to do. And when, like, sometimes they want to learn a new movement, so I teach it to them. Like, one of our sons a little while ago, he hadn't benched before, and he was like, I want to start benching. Cool. So I worked with him for a few sessions to get him benching and kept an eye on him. And I give him, suggestions and stuff like that, as far as like, oh, address this, do whatever. And now he just benches, and cool. Like, but he didn't bench before that, because I wanted to make sure he was doing something overhead or push-ups or something. But like, I don't really care how that manifests. But at one point he was like, well, I want to bench now. And, I think he almost thought like he had to be a certain age or something. And it's just like, no, you haven't benched because, like, you didn't say you wanted to. And as long as you're pressing something, I don't really care for it to be flat bench press. Like, overhead press is actually probably more useful in real life anyway. So it really doesn't matter to me.
One of the benefits if you do homeschool is that this can even be a credit. Like, my son wanted to do conjugate of all things when he was in high school. So I put together one, super low percentages on the weights. He just liked the variety, and that was his PE credit. So I was like, if you're consistent with this during the school year, I will give you an A+. So
for sure.
It worked, get a credit out of it when you're homeschooling, and got stronger, put some weight on the bar, and did some healthy stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kids crave, kind of back to what I said before, kids crave novelty, and they crave development. So if you can help encourage that in whatever they're doing, like you're getting stronger, you're getting bigger, whatever the thing might be, then like help them do that, encourage them to do that. If you're super into baseball and you played it as a teenager and your kids aren't, then encourage them to do something else. Like, that's okay. If you make them do it, they will probably never love it. Right. Yeah. Sometimes kids do need to be pushed, but like, make sure that if you're pushing them, it's not because of a living vicariously through your kid thing. It's more of I know you have a reason to believe I know what they need. And the age 13 plus, I would argue that all kids should be lifting weights at that age, which might sound extreme to a lot of people hearing this.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that needs to be the main thing they do. The main thing they might do might be soccer or football or baseball or basketball or whatever sport they want to play, or golf. I don't care. But it is the time to normalize lifting weights, because it is so stinking beneficial, and they should have that skill so that when they become adults, it's normalized for them to do so. When they walk into a gym, they're competent on some level. One of the biggest barriers to entry a lot of people have is, I think this is more so in women, but it's in plenty of men too. There's like an anxiety of walking to the gym because, like, I don't know what all this stuff is for. And all these people have been doing it for so long, and I haven't been. There's no one here to show me what I'm doing. Yeah. It feels awkward, and it feels, however it feels. And there can be like a stress around that. If they've been in and around exercise equipment and lifting weights for, several years, when they turn 18 and they go out on their own, or a little older, or whatever that might look like, that barrier is gone. And that is one of the most significant barriers, is how does this look like integrated into my life? And it feels weird when I'm in the gym. If you have those things gone by the time they're 18, then you have lifted probably the two biggest things that people need basically to get over and to overcome in order to actually like pursue their health.
Yeah, and a lot of the injuries that come later in life are because somebody never learned how to do something in the proper form. It's a
Yeah.
lot
Yeah.
easier to learn proper form as a blank slate and be able to carry that through the rest of your life than correct it down the line when you had not been practicing when you were younger and you're trying to learn it all on your own for the first time. Now you have these form mistakes to fix. But if you can teach your kids in this age, is just the basics of good form and what they should, certain moves should feel like, then they can carry that through the rest of their lives and reduce their injury risk when they're older by a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. This is, I think, particularly the time to start helping them tie their physical health to their spiritual, their ability as far as it pertains to their spiritual callings, to the responsibilities they have in life and everything else, and to their just health and general well-being. It is definitely the time to start making those connections. And it's not like you got to sit them down and look in the eye and have this like, it should just be sort of a day-to-day thing where it's integrated, so that they can kind of like take these little bits and pieces of wisdom from you where it's clear, like, oh yeah, if I keep doing this, it'll help me, whatever, age better, help me be more capable, and those sorts of things. When they see the benefits of it because they're participating in it, because they have the thrill of hitting a PR, or they can enjoy that, like they have better energy or whatever else, or they slept better, like all of those things are the things that you should be like, yeah, see, it's great that, you trained or whatever it might be, or you ate well. And part of it too is you have to do this carefully. But one thing that we do is like when our peers' children are sometimes not doing well, it gives us opportunity to be like, yeah, well, that's probably partly because he doesn't eat the same kind of foods that you do, or that sort of thing. Like, obviously, you got to be careful how you frame that and stuff like that. But you do want your kids to be capable of thinking through those things and making those observations of like, oh, this is, this family is sick a lot, but look at the way that their lifestyle is. These children tend to behave really poorly after church potluck. What are they eating? That sort of thing. They put those pieces together really readily when you have those conversations to them, and it should just be part of your family culture. It's not like it needs to be a teaching time, kind of thing. But it's a dinner table conversation, during the day kind of conversation that I think is really, really beneficial for you to have with your kids. So, and part of it is that it normalizes the discussion of these types of things in everyday conversation, so that it's framed properly, and again, just totally normalized, because I think it's often a topic that is kind of actively avoided by a lot of parents because they feel awkward about it, because of, that might be due to shame or embarrassment, and whatever that discomfort might be. It will help you to overcome it if you have those conversations with them, because you're normalizing it for yourself, and that's kind of how you make progress. But if you want them to not be stuck on that, then have those conversations with them and have it be a part of your family culture, so that it can be part of their family culture when they're older.
Yeah, this is also the age where a lot of them are getting their first jobs. So they're learning how to balance having a job, still doing school, and it can be helpful to teach them. See, you can still fit exercise into your day. You can figure out when to time what you're eating so that you can carry yourself through your job or your school or your workout, and helping them to learn that maybe in a more structured environment at the beginning of them first getting this job or first doing new things at the gym. And then you're slowly kind of removing your hand from over that as they're getting closer to 18, where they're an adult, to where you're still the example. You're always the example, even when your kids move out of your house as adults, you're still an example. But you're slowly lifting your, I guess, control over that, and hopefully having taught them the skills of why they're making certain decisions, and how it fits best, and keeping that line of communication open so that when they have a question about it, you're able to answer that question, because they are still going to watch your example and ask you why this or why that sometimes. as you're having a little less and less control over their lives going into adulthood.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And as you like let go of some of that control, to also like not freak out when they do have questions, or when maybe they didn't do something that you would have done, sort of thing. Or even like, as you mentioned, the first jobs of just like how, they might have opportunities, or even situations with coworkers or different things like that, where you're like, oh, look what I would have done. But don't freak out. Just like I welcome the conversation, and just like acknowledge it, and try and point them in the right way. Like this happens all the time with our oldest son, because he's working part-time right now, and I love all of his coworkers. They're great Christian guys, but they just like, some of them are out on their own and they eat differently. Like he knows that the one coworker that eats McDonald's all the time, he's like, man, that guy just eats McDonald's all the time. I hope he doesn't die soon. I mean, we're like good natured joking about it, but like I think it was a couple weeks ago, he helped his boss with a certain job, and when he was done, his boss gave him a Mountain Dew or whatever, and so it's just like, I don't keep Mountain Dew at my house. Like Mountain Dew's terrible for you. But I didn't. Like he told me, and the first thing I asked was just like, oh, did you like it? It's cool that you got to try that. Because we don't have Mountain Dew all the time. One Mountain Dew is not going to like ruin his health.
I've had Mountain Dew in like...
Yeah, right. Like, and it is terrible for you. But it was funny because I was like, did you like it? And he was like, oh, it's kind of good, blah, blah. And then he was like, the next question he asked me was, is it bad for you? And I was like, oh yeah, it's terrible for you. And he was just like, oh, okay, cool. I probably won't have them very often then. And I was like, yeah, that's great. Like just like, I want you to experience the thing in a responsible way and make your own decision about it. But when you leave it open for conversation and don't freak out, you leave that door open to know that like they can bring that stuff to you. And I'm not going to like ground him for having a Mountain Dew like a sugar Nazi beard bomb. Like,
yeah. A lot of it is your initial reaction to those things. I think like that, like, because if your kids are used to you like having a little freak out over whatever, and being manipulative or anything along those lines, they're not going to want to include you in the conversation, because you're basically punishing them for sharing with you. Instead, if you can like just keep it conversational and maybe guide the conversation and things like that, but thoughtfully and without it being emotionally charged, you're helping them process things properly. Which along those lines, kids at this age start being exposed to a lot more, just media, stuff like that. So there can be body dysmorphia type things. For boys, I think it's easier because you
boys
just like
want to be jacked and eat all the food.
And like unashamedly so, and basically like, and I just kind of encourage that. But I also often frame it in terms of like, this is good, guys, because you'll be more capable as a man. You'll be, and being strong is a good thing. All the things that you need to do in life, strength is better. And so they're aware of a lot of those things, and we don't discourage them wanting to look jacked. It's obviously there is obviously a danger of vanity and things like that. But I think if it's framed in terms of like health, and this is good for you, it has benefits. And it also like cultivates respect. When someone sees that you are fit, then they respect you, and rightfully so, because at least in that area of your life, you are very disciplined. And it usually spills over to other areas. So I, talk through those things. And so I think they generally have somewhat reasonable expectations in that area, despite the fact that they've been around more jacked guys than almost every other kid, because like going to strongman shows and, like they see, maybe my Instagram feed sometimes or something. And it's just, there's a lot of really muscular guys on there. And they're kind of, it's normalized to them, but in a way that they're not necessarily like aspiring to like, I got to look like that or I'm worthless, but just like that's really cool. I want to be the best that I can be kind of thing. I think for girls, it's a bit different, because when a guy sees another guy that's jacked, it's obviously, it depends on how insecure the guy is, but like if you're raising your boys, I think properly, they don't have that like insecurity type of thing where it's like, well, I'm probably that big, or I could be that big if I, whatever. It's like, well, no, you probably couldn't if you're looking at any of the top guys at all, because you have my genetics. So we would have known by now. But the other thing is like, it's usually inspirational. It's usually more like that's really cool that he's like that. Girls don't necessarily have that takeaway as naturally. Now, I think that in the proper environment, they are less likely to, but I think there's always going to be that temptation for women to, especially, different culture, maybe it just was less prevalent, but it's like because of all the cultural pressures that are basically inescapable, there's going to be a tendency in especially teenage girls to look at a fit woman, or something, or see a fit woman and be like, oh, I'm a fat piece of crap, like, and like, she's not at all. She's a teenage girl and she's like 14 or 15% body fat and athletic. And it's like, no, you're not. You're just not a bodybuilder who's 2 weeks out from stepping on the stage.
Yeah. I think
like
women
how-
or girls at this age, and women in general, look a lot more at what they look like genetically, like just as they are. And, different parts of women develop differently on different women. And so thinking that way is just, oh, this is how I'm built and that's it. There's nothing I can do about it. Whereas boys sometimes think like, oh, if I do like 20 curls today, I'm going to look just like that. Like almost overinflating how quickly the results get there. But girls will often just, this is how I am. This is how it is. It sucks. There's nothing I can do. There's not really what can I do to make myself feel better or make myself look maybe the way that I want to look, or what can I do to put more muscle on? That's not generally the natural thought process for a girl to follow. So if you've gone through all these, speaking positively about what your body can do and how to eat and things like that, chances are a little bit lower that a girl this age would have as big of a struggle, but it's probably still going to be there. It's just a lot of how girls think. So this is where that foundation really hits the ground running and shapes how they talk to themselves about themselves.
Yeah. If you have set the groundwork, I think that, like you guys said, it will be easier for your teenage girls to have a good perspective around these things. And especially if they are at a healthy body weight, because it's just harder when you're not, and you've got all these friends that are, and you just feel like the weirdo and you don't know what to do about it because most of these moms have no idea what to say. You know what I mean? Like it starts to spiral very, very quickly. But I think that if you've laid the groundwork for these things, then they'll probably have the confidence going into their teen years of at least knowing how to think about their body, how to think about food, how to deal with their emotions in a way that is more helpful, how to respond, to other girls, I think giving them confidence in those younger years, and the theology behind it of like, look, your body is a gift and God made it to do amazing things, and give them more of a mission to focus on than just existing to be a pretty Barbie and that's all you think about day and night, So that could mean giving them, other things to focus on, other things to do. But if you have not laid the groundwork for this, and you're kind of like, oh man, now I got a super self-conscious teenage girl, I don't want her to feel that way. Honestly, I'd get her in the gym. I'd get her in the gym with mom, because the confidence she's going to get from getting stronger and accomplishing hard things and developing some discipline and being able to do something that none of her friends can do, and doing it with her mom, who loves her very much. And especially if mom's on that journey too, and you're getting strong together, like, I think people really underestimate the confidence that comes from having a capable body. So even if you are a teenage girl who is a little overweight, like being able to lift some of these weights and put in the hard work and develop a love for activity, like I have seen that go so far in women's confidence and the way they think about their body and the way they think about food, and they get to see those things change. And so no matter what body composition these girls might be, if they're really, really struggling and you haven't formed that foundation up to this point, I seriously, I would get them in the gym.
Yeah, it's not too late to do anything.
No.
Yeah, it's not, and it's the easiest time of life to lose weight. It really is. It only goes downhill from there. Again, it's okay to have that conversation with them if weight is getting where it shouldn't be, but it shouldn't be reactionary. It shouldn't be manipulative. It should be just open. To be fit is to be capable. Get them in the gym, let them see the results and the benefits and how much better they feel, and then give them a taste for that, a very positive taste for that. It's really something when the first time a girl or a woman deadlifts 200 pounds, which is not very much weight, by the way. So anyone hearing this that thinks like, oh my gosh, every woman basically can do it unless you have a serious health issue or, like a serious injury that's holding you back or something. If you don't have anything like that, every woman can deadlift 200 pounds basically. And that sounds like crazy to so many people, like teenage girls, no problem. There are teenage girls on Instagram right now deadlifting 400 pounds. I see it every day and it's like, oh, okay. Didn't do that till I was over 30. That's what should be normalized, and helping them understand like you can do a lot, and imagine how capable you are in your everyday life when you can do that. And and part of it too is I think that there's a tendency, like guys are very different usually, where it's like, yeah, I'm fat because I eat too much and I'm lazy. So then it's almost harder to address in certain ways, because it's like, well, what are you going to do about that? Keep being fat because I like beer. It's like, okay, well, I can't really help that guy. But if a girl is like, I'm fat, and she's actually fat, because that's the other thing too, is a lot of girls are like, I'm fat and ugly, and it's like, no, you're not. You're just not hyper trim like a CrossFit athlete. But guess what? Like, that's not you, and that's okay. But if a girl is genuinely, or a woman, like overweight or something, often I think what they're looking for is commiseration when they bring it up or something like that. Like, pump the brakes on that. And I think the conversation needs to steer toward like, why does this bother you? And what are you going to do about it? It shouldn't bother you because you see other girls that aren't overweight and you're not as, whatever as them. It should bother you because you know where this leads. It means you'll be less capable. It means that you're not going to be able to do the things you need to be able to do as an adult based on what your responsibilities are, that you're not going to live as long. Your quality of life will be lower. You will be a less capable person. That's why it should bother you. And then what are you going to do about this? Like, yeah, so yep, that's not good that you're, whatever state you're in. So what are we going to do about this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other
and
thing
also
I'd be
adding,
ahead,
adding like, I'm already doing this, come with me. It's not just what are you going to do, but and some kind of invitation to join in. So there's not a loneliness there as well.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I was just going to say real quick that be in tune with your teenage daughter's friends as well, and who they're hanging out with, and the things they look at on phones, if there are phones involved or anything like that, because a really sweet, confident young lady can be very, very swayed by a really terrible group of friends who's always talking bad about their bodies and looking at stuff on the internet, bemoaning how they don't look like the supermodel. Like, that is not going to go anywhere good, and you need to nip that right in the butt.
Yeah, especially the obsession, like being obsessed with how you look is just not something you should do. Like, it's just not, like, we should be thinking about what we have in front of us and the work that we have to do. And you can have thoughts of evaluation like, yes, I want to look better for my husband or whatever the thing might be, or for my wife, but it shouldn't be like this constant thing that you're grinding away. It should be like, well, I want to do this, so I'm going to start changing the way I eat and lifting, or whatever the thing is, or I'm going to change these 2 things or 3 things or whatever they're going to be, and then move on to the next thing you're supposed to do at the moment. A lot of it is not ruminating on these types of things, is just let it be a passing thought, like, then let it go and move on to the next thing. but like make your plan of how you're going to address it, and then do the thing that's in front of you. This is something that I think, talked to all of our kids about, and I think it's something that most parents haven't addressed, at least in modernity. I don't know what it was like 100 years ago, but I feel like most don't address it because most adults have the same struggle, is ruminating on things that are not going the way we think they should. And that rumination actually enforces not doing anything about it. Because the thought pattern we want to have is identify a problem, evaluate if it's really a problem, first of all, because it might not be.
Yeah.
And then decide, what am I going to do about this problem? And then just execute the plan. And what's nice about that, and so for some people, it's helpful to like write down on paper or like put your calendar what you're going to do, like those types of things that allows you to put it out of your mind and then just focus on the next thing. Because if you're spinning on something, and it could be because, I'm too fat or whatever the thing is, or it could just be like any anxieties you have in life. If you walk around carrying those all the time, it will inhibit everything else you're doing in life.
Mm-hmm.
So like identify it, figure out a plan, stick to the plan, and like take care of the next thing. There's plenty of work to do in life. We don't need to add thinking about how I don't look like so-and-so to that list. It's not good.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, cool. Well, we're at an hour and 15 minutes, so I think we did it. We could do some, if anyone's interested in like maybe some more in the future, as far as like what do kids programs maybe look like or things like that. I guess we could talk on that topic. And one thing too that I should mention on this age category real quick: if you have boys that are trying to put on muscle, and they're active, they probably need to eat way more than you think. Make them eat more carbs and protein. Like fill them up. That's just all. That's all I probably need to say on the topic. But like, if they're active, they're playing sports and or lifting, and they're growing they're growing at a rapid rate, and they want to put on muscle mass, which most do. They need to eat a lot. That's where you get to the gram per pound of body weight, and then carbs could be like triple or quadruple body weight.
I don't know how many teenage boys have come up to you and be like, Mr. Johnson, how do I do this, and this? And you've been like, you need to sleep more and you need to eat better.
Yeah.
Consistently.
Yeah.
And then their heads droop.
I know. They're like, well, they're like, they think that the answer is going to be like, what do I do in the gym? It's like, well, your programming probably sucks, but the fact that you're that age and lifting 3 or 4 times a week is actually probably all you need, because your body hyper responds. And if you're not seeing any results, it's definitely because you're like not eating enough and staying up too late.
Yeah. They're like, those are the 2 things I didn't want to do.
They'll just be like, oh man, it's like, that's what you're doing wrong. You wanted the solution. I gave it to you.
Yeah, we've got a good friend of ours who's got 2 twin boys who are juniors in high school and both play football. And that food budget is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But one of them asked us, how do I get bigger? And we found out he wasn't eating breakfast. Buddy, you got to get a protein shake at least. But probably more than that. So
yeah, you should be eating like 5 to 10 eggs and toast and fruit, maybe a glass of milk too.
Yeah, it's definitely a good age to have some protein shakes on hand for this, and you can toss anything in them. Like make it a smoothie if you want. Throw some other things. Get some mass gainer if you really want.
We don't worry about calorie density with athletic teenage boys. Really, like. If you do have that boy that's putting on excessive weight, then fine, have that conversation. But he is an anomaly. The rest of them will want to put on a lot of muscle mass, and they will not eat enough to do so, unless you like help them in some way. And that's just going to be like, it could be a smoothie. I mean, like protein powder, milk, and fruit, and maybe some peanut butter. You can get a shake up to like 800 calories really fast that way.
Yeah.
There's 1,000 ways to do it, and it's easier when calorie dense foods are appropriate. Just don't encourage them to get it from like ice cream.
Pasta's really cheap, so like get the cheap carb sources and just load it up.
Well, that's the thing too, is their digestion's so much more tolerant too to like that kind of stuff that like we can't get away with as adults, where it's like they can like pound the same thing for 2 meals a day, and for us it's like, if I don't have variety, I get bloated and it's not good. But like boys can like, because like when I'm gaining weight, I gotta have to have food variety, or like I get like my digestion stinks, like it slows down too much, and you need you need food moving if you're eating a lot of calories. And so like a lot of these teenage boys are wanting to grow, and it's like you are, you know, maybe at 16 years old, they're 5'6", 5'8", and their maintenance could be like 4,000 calories a day, easy, if they're like playing a sport and lifting weights. Like that's not much of it. And they're still growing too, which is a lot of calories, especially at that age. Like it takes a lot of calories to grow an inch. I don't know how many it is, but it's in the tens or hundreds of thousands. And so like, you're going to have to do calorie dense foods. If they tolerate dairy, then feed them a bunch of whole milk. It works. So cool. Well, I think we got that one. If anyone wants any more information, of course, on the topic or how to navigate that with your kids, we do have options too. We even have like, you know, if you just want to talk to us, we do one-time consults, or even our health retainer for your family or something like that. And we can just talk to you about how to shape your family culture and lifestyle around this, or anything else you need with your health and fitness or strength as an athlete. We'd be happy to help. You can come visit us at highcallingfitness.com or message any of our socials, High Calling Fitness. We would be happy to help. And of course, until then, gains and grace.
Gains and grace.
Gains and grace.